Hey, welcome back. I want to talk today about commitment. I developed COVID with my family this week and didn't record today's podcast. And I had already recorded the other two in advance. And I thought, I'll get to the third one this coming week. And then wouldn't you know it, on Monday, we got sick. And so we're on day, 5 today, of, being sick. And at first I was like, well, I just won't do today's podcast and I'll wait until I'm feeling better. And then as the morning progressed, I was up for about an hour and I realized that that's not the person that I am, that I am a committed decision maker. And when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. But let's rewind back to myself when I was very first beginning to overcome toxic behaviors and developing a better attitude. And I was really starting to work on personal development almost 5 years ago. Crystal then would have blown off today. She would have stayed in bed all day. She would have been miserable. She would have been cranky and would have just been hating life. And she wouldn't be committed. She wouldn't be a quick decision maker. She would make a lot of excuses. And I realized sitting there this morning that that's just not the person I am anymore. And if I am not that person anymore, then I need to come upstairs, go into my little hidey hole, and I need to do my podcast. And I know that just sounds so silly. You're sick, you have a serious cold, blah, blah, blah. But in all honesty, I'm not sick enough to be able to talk, right? If I can sit and have a conversation with other people, I can definitely get on here and get this done. And that commitment is really so important in all areas of your life. I didn't realize how important commitment really affects every area of your life. It will affect relationships, it will affect finances, it can also affect your personal well-being, your health, like your mental health, your physical health. Commitment is so important, and I don't think we give it enough value or enough credit in society. Just my opinion. I don't know if how true the statistic is right now, but last I heard, about 70% of people would rather die than change. They would rather die than commit and change to be a better person, or to do personal development, or to grow and work on themselves. And when I heard that number, I was astonished. I was so blown away. And I don't know about you, but I was a part of that 70% for a really long time, a part of that 70% of the population who was like, I am who I am. And if you don't like it, that's too bad. I'm not going to change. You can deal with it. Um, and just really had this crappy attitude that was so defensive, that was so caught up in other people's business, that was so worried about what was going on outside the world, outside around her. And today, I'm different. And it's because I've learned the value of committing to myself and to my goals and to other people, like the relationships I hold. This podcast doesn't just impact me, it impacts those that I serve. It impacts the team that I'm building within my company. It impacts my family. It impacts my children and my grandchildren. It's like my goal is to leave them a legacy. And if I'm not committed to my dreams and my goals and the things that I want for life, then how am I going to show them how important it is for them to commit to theirs? And so I really do hold that space really high, high on a priority list for me. And I'm not, I don't feel bad about it. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but I'm not like upset about it one bit. It doesn't hinder me in any way, shape, or form. It encourages my life to be better. It encourages my family to be better. And I always feel so good after completing a commitment, something that I committed to do. And it's always such a rewarding thing. A lot of people don't understand that lack of commitment can actually mess with your mindset. Um, we let fears get in the way. We let doubt and shame get in the way, and keeping us from committing to things that could better our lives and better someone else's life. And for a long time, that was me. And I don't know if you can relate to that, but for a long time, I was scared to commit to things because of my health, my physical health. I live with chronic diseases and chronic illnesses that I've had for over 10 plus years. And I've had to learn a world of navigating my life around those, but I've also had to learn not to focus on them and not to make them the top thing I focus on, because what we focus on grows. And I don't want to live with these for the rest of my life. I don't want to be debilitated. And so for me, I want to commit to what I do want and what I see myself as a future version. And I want to look at that future version self and commit to her. And it took a long time to get here, because for a long time, I would just focus on what I was going through in that moment. And have you ever been in a moment where, if you're a chronic pain patient, you're going to understand, if you have chronic pain or chronic anything, right? You're going to understand what I'm talking about. So, like, you're having a flare and your only focus is on that flare, and you're just like talking about it, and you're just like angry about it. And instead of, telling God or speaking to the universe and God about like what you want, um, it to be, instead you're just angry and yelling at them and just like, I'm so sick of being sick. I'm so tired of not feeling good, and you just start talking, like speaking over like what is actually happening to your body, right? What you don't understand is that you're just asking for more of that, because you're not saying what you want to change. And the universe only knows one answer, and that's yes. And I didn't realize that. And so to be committed, I have to remember that when I'm having those moments, just like right now being sick, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to bring life into it and breathe more, right? Instead, I'm happy, I'm whole, I'm healthy, I'm blessed, I'm wealthy, I'm healed, and I'm healthy. I am so healthy. And I'm going to talk about what I want. My family is healthy. My family is well. We are blessed. We are wealthy. We have a life of abundance. And I want to speak this truth into my life. And it took a long time to commit to doing so. But I'm going to tell you, once I made the commitment to speak life over my life versus speaking death over my life, it changed who I was as an individual. It changed who I am as an individual today. And instead of focusing on how crappy I feel, I'm going to focus on how good I want to feel, and I'm going to breathe life as if I already feel that good. And it's a game changer when you can shift that. And it's not something that just happens overnight for us. It takes practice of doing it throughout our day, every day. So if you see something you don't like, say like you are in a little small home, right? And you would just love nothing more than to have a bigger space for you and your family. And you don't know how you're going to get there. You don't know the how isn't important. It's just, why you want it so badly, right? You want to give your family more space. You want to be able to, entertain people. You want to be able to have guests over. You want to be able to feel like you're not in a sardine box, right? And imagine if you constantly are complaining about that sardine box, and you're constantly complaining about being in that little tight space and how horrible it is and how uncomfortable it is, and you're just going to stay there, because you're just saying it over and over and over. You're just going to keep staying there. But imagine if you twisted that and you flipped it, and you talked about the home of your dreams, you know, and it could be absolutely insane, right? Like people are going to be like, you can't have that. You can't do that. They're going to doubt you, but it's your dream and it was placed on your heart and it's your vision, like your thought, right? It was placed on your heart. It wouldn't have been put there if it wouldn't be able to be possible. And so your focus is now on the, you know, this dream home. And all you could think about is this dream home. And it's just the goodness that you feel and the feelings that you feel when you think about this home. And you think about how happy your family is going to be to have the extra space and how they're going to decorate it and how you're going to live life in it. And you picture your family in this home. And, you know, you don't know how, you don't know like what exactly steps were taken, but a couple years later, you're in this home that you had thought about. And you're looking back and you're like, how did this happen? The universe is going to align everything you need to make things possible. But it is so up to you to, you know, you got to be asking for those things or talking about those things or thinking of those things or feeling those emotions that attach to those things, whether it be a career or a home or a vehicle or money or a relationship or just whatever it is. You're, you know, when we're thinking about it is when we attract those things, right? And then we attract the things that align to make those things possible. For example, you're thinking about your friend Sally and you're like, gosh, I wonder how Sally's doing. And it's Saturday morning. And you're like, I wonder how Sally's doing. I haven't talked to her in a while. And then next thing you know, the phone rings and it's Sally. And you pick it up and you're like, I was just thinking about you. And Sally said, I was thinking about you too. That's not an accident. That's not a mistake. That's not a coincidence. That's the universe aligning your thoughts and you got on the same frequency. And now you both have thought of each other and one of you picked up the phone and took the action. So the action is what gets you to that thing that you're visioning, the thing that you're thinking. So you can't just wish and hope for something. You've got to commit and commit to things that are going to get you toward that goal and allow you to commit to take the actions behind it. So for me, I, as a business owner, I own a health wellness company and I want to be in conversations every day, right? And so I want X amount of conversations each day. And if I'm not taking the action to get into those conversations, I'm wasting time. I'm wasting my time, right? That's valuable time that I could be taking the action to get into those conversations, sending out and networking, you know, starting to build relationships with people in person. Like there's so many different ways in my company to be able to network. But if I'm not doing any of them, I'm wasting time. And that's not going to take me closer to my goals, right? Closer to my plans, my visions. And so that's where commitment comes in. When we're committed, we're usually disciplined. And with commitment, I feel like discipline goes hand in hand. And a lot of people are waiting to be motivated to commit to something. They're waiting to have motivation kick in. And I'm just here to tell you that motivation is like stealing your joy if you're waiting for it. It is a thief of your joy. It's like jealousy. I feel like motivation and jealousy will steal your joy so fast. A lot of people don't understand that. What I mean by that is motivation is not always going to be there. I'm not always motivated to do stuff that's going to get me closer to my goal. For example, today's podcast, it's a perfect example. I'm sick. I don't necessarily want to be doing stuff, right? But I'm committed and I have discipline that tells me, hey, as much as you want to put this off and you want to just lay around and do nothing, you have commitments and you have things that you want to obtain this year, not next year, 2024. And so when I think about that, that's what I realize is that discipline is just something that we developed the more we practice the habits each day consistently. And we can be disciplined in so many different areas of our life and not even realize it. But it's because of that commitment that we chose. So something that I love doing this at least once a year. And sometimes if I need to, I will go back and reevaluate this every few months and adjust it as needed, right? But I love making a contract to myself. Making a contract to myself has allowed me to stay in my commitment, because those moments like this morning when I didn't want to do something, I know I'm still committed and I'll go do it. And so maybe that's you. Maybe you need a contract for yourself that is going to help you stay committed and teach you some discipline. And so another great, there's a couple of great books that I actually started reading, and they have them on Audible, or you can get them hardback and car or softback. I know they have both. Um, but it was Atomic Habits, and I want to say it's Eric Cleary. I'll drop it inside of my podcast info so you guys have it in the description today. But that book changed my life. I really loved how he went over habit stacking. And when I learned how to habit stack, it really helped. Now, there's something I'm going to tell you though. You don't want to multitask. Part of being committed is that you are committed to like your goals, right? But we as humans, we tend to multitask, and that multitasking can actually be overstimulating, and it could actually to me, I realized when I multitask, it actually hindered me. So what I mean by multitasking is like sending out messages while I'm making dinner, while I'm juggling the kids. Like, that's insane. And so many people in my industry, I've heard them say, just do it. It's no big deal, blah, 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 blah. But it's something that I've learned is that it's just not intentional work. Um, when I'm cooking dinner, I should be cooking dinner. And when I'm involved with my family in cooking dinner, I should be 100% involved in cooking dinner with my family. I should not be on my phone sending out messages and trying to juggle my kids. And literally, are you even going to remember what conversations you and your kids had if you're doing that? No, you're not. You're going to be too distracted. And they're going to think you have. And then 6 months down the road, they're going to ask you a question like my kids do and say, "Hey, mom, do you remember when this happened?" And then you're like, "Oh, yeah." And you have no idea. You don't even remember. I'm going to tell you, I did that for years, and it's so draining and exhausting. So I learned that each day, the night before, you actually want to make a list, and you want to make a list of like 4 to 6 things. And on those 4 to 6 things, it's what you're going to commit to the next day. And I love this. I absolutely love this. It has been so helpful. So every morning I do my 10, sentences, my 10 things, that I'm grateful for. And I write down my gratitude. I am so grateful for, and, I'm just all, the little things and things I don't have yet, things I have yet. We talked about that last podcast, right? So I have my list right there. So the next day, as I'm writing down my gratitude, I see my list. And those lists, I have them listed in priority with, one being the most things, the, most important thing I have to get done. Now, if I don't finish anything on that list, or if I miss a couple things or don't get them all done, then those things go on my list for the next day at the top of my priority list, right? So I can get them done first and then move on to the next ones. I don't ever put more than six, never more than 6 things. And that involves my personal life, my professional life, um and myself, right? Like those are all like all of the things. It's all of my life, not just business, not just personal, but everything. And it has been so helpful because some days I feel like I could add a bazillion things to that list, right? But if I added a bazillion things, I would not get probably any of them done because it would just look so overwhelming, right? But when there's like 4 to 6 things, and I know what my day is supposed to be like the next day, I know if I have meetings, I know if I have appointments because I have everything scheduled out on my calendar, right? Because I'm disciplined, I'm organized, I have things in my calendar, like I have those things laid out for the week, right? So that tells me my time for the next day. So like if I know I have a bunch of meetings the next day, I'm not going to add 6 things to my list because I'm not going to get all 6 of those done, but I'm going to add 4. right? Um, and so that's just really been the biggest helpful tool when it comes to committing, when it comes to learning discipline, and when it comes to setting that schedule and that routine. Habit stacking is so necessary, and my words are like I almost said necessity. It is so necessary for us to create those habits, those little small habits each day. So like if you take medicine, right? If you take daily medicine, here's a good example, or vitamins, okay? You probably have a specific time or a specific behavior or pattern to taking those in your morning routine or in your daily routine, right? It's the same thing with your work. It's the same thing with anything you got going on with your grateful list. It's the same thing with your list of things that are have to get done. Um, it's the same thing. We're creating habits. So somehow you may not even realize it, but when you were started taking those vitamins, you created a habit and you did that habit and you developed that discipline and that you're committed and you develop that discipline in taking those vitamins or those medicine, right? And it's really the same thing. It's like getting our water intake for the day. So many people struggle getting water intake, even though they want to make sure they have enough water in their body. They struggle because maybe they don't like drinking water. Maybe they're not a big water drinker, right? So they have to find times in their day to be disciplined, set an alarm, and drink your water. It's the same thing. And so it's so important that you choose, a couple of things that you're going to commit to. And when you're learning new habits, try not to add on more than three. Three is a lot. I always say pick one or two. If you really, really struggle with staying, staying the course, start with one. Start one new habit. And maybe for you, it's doing the gratitude each day, every single day. And that's a new commitment. That's a new habit. So when I started my program with my life coach last year, that's what I started with. Was I started with the gratitude. And once I developed that habit, then I moved on to the next habit, right? The list. And so you just have to do it. I think that that's what people don't understand is with commitment, there's no right time. There's no wrong time. You just have to jump in and do it. And I think so many people are waiting for permission from someone else to go do something. And so I'm here to remind you that you don't need anyone else's permission. You just have to go do it. And you have to make the decision that you're going to commit. And I'm going to tell you something. Every single day you're going to have to make that decision for a while. And it may be like years. I'm almost 5 years in to self-development, and I still have to make that decision every single day. I still have to give myself permission on days that I feel like I can't do it, or I'm struggling, or I'm not feeling well, right? I still have to remind myself that I'm committed. And don't forget to give yourself rest. I think so many of us are committed and we feel like being committed and disciplined means we have to grind 24/7. And I'm here to tell you that I'm changing that stigma. So many people in especially network marketing, they feel like it's grind, grind, grind mindset, and it's like dog eat dog, but there's enough for everyone. And I think that when we have that mindset of grinding all the time, we forget and we feel like someone's going to steal our piece of the pie, but there's enough pie for everyone. There's billions of people in this world, and people are attracted to who we are as individuals and like our energy, and that's really really was attracting people. So if you're focused on, oh no, if I don't get this done, or I don't grind today, or if I don't work every single day, I'm not going to have what I want, right? I'm not going to get it. You're just setting yourself up to burn out. And we're going to talk about burnout on another episode. Um, but burnout is real. I've experienced it. And so it's so important that like you give yourself the rest that you need. That's one thing, especially like when I'm sick, I'm resting. I'm just resting, and it is what it is. And then I have my days that I do take off and I rest and I enjoy like things that I enjoy and I spend family time and like all of these things. And I think it's so important that you do that and that you don't feel guilty about it or have any shame or doubt. And just know that like we're meant to not always work, work, work. I mean, if you're reading the Bible and you've read the Bible, you know that they have a rest day. They have a day where they do absolutely nothing and it's given to the Lord. And why would you want to deprive him of that, but also yourself of that day to just recharge your batteries, to reflect on how your week went, reflect on how things are going with your life, reflect on how things are going with your loved ones, your business, if you're a business owner, like if you have a certain career that you're in, like these are all times where good self-reflection and then you need a day of rest. And so I think that's just so important to remember that, you know, it's okay to have those things, even though you feel like, well, I'm committed and I have discipline, then have the discipline to give yourself the rest that you need when you need it to. Have the discipline to give yourself the recharge. It's like a recharge for your body when you know, take a day down and just rest. And so I hope this has helped y'all. I really just love the idea of being a committed person today. It really does change, you know, every area of your life. It changes your relationships with people. It changes how you communicate with people. It changes your attitude. Like it is just such a priority for you. And so just know my inbox is always open. You can always drop a comment. If you have any questions about this, I am an open book, so don't ever hesitate to reach out. Thank you for listening.